trying to buy votes, and my vote is more valuable than a fish sandwich or anything else around here. But we also have to make sure that our
inner communities and African Americans, we talk about poverty and uneducated, we make it sound like just every African American is this poor, uneducated, sorry. You know, we are so more intense than that. If you look at these black and brown numbers, it's about what this young lady just said, making it known that your vote is huge and it's powerful, and sometimes we diminish our own selves. I just sat here and watched. I'm scared for the Republican Party, if you really want to know.
How many of you have been to training for running for office, campaign training? I don't know if you had the same experience I have, but repeatedly it's been, well, don't worry about super voters, they're going to go out and vote anyway. Don't worry about your young, because they don't go out anyway. Appeal to this demographic because they're the ones that come out. They focus very much on who they see in the numbers is coming out. All this training kind of goes that way. The bottom line, though, is this. As a community, as people in this room, we have to get those groups that they claim don't come out or that don't matter. That's who we have to focus to bring up those numbers.
We're talking about accountability. Right now, we don't hold anybody accountable because we sit next to them in church, okay? We don't hold anybody accountable because we're singing with them in the choir. We need to call people out who are not doing their
job. How do you hold these people accountable for sitting in those seats when they don't feel that they owe these younger people anything and they didn't come out to vote? Why am I going to go talk to them? They're not going to come out to vote. Why am I going to go talk to the Hispanics? Do not come out to vote. Why? I have had campaign managers bold-facedly come up to me and say, why should I bother with your community? The numbers aren't there. They're not going to make... So when they get into office, they want to ignore you because you didn't come out to vote. So it's in getting these groups that have sat back to move forward and surprising these people that we have put into office and putting a little fire under their butts because we have motivated these people to demand.
You know, a lot of folks aren't confident with why are they supporting, why are they voting, and that's why they don't even turn out, you know? And I think that's part of the process, if we do come up with a strategy for media, you know, to get out there and educate folks so they're empowered, so that they know who they're voting for and what issues they're voting for, too. Not just a name, not just, you know, because they're from this neighborhood or whatever, what issues do they stand for, and hold them accountable, like we said earlier, to those issues. And I think that will be a big part of how we can bring this movement on, you know. Like you said, in the 60s, there was massive movements of people demanding change. But then what happened? They shut it down. They shut it down. Somebody shut it down, right? The media came up and, like you said, last week there was a huge protest, but there was no coverage, right? And it's up to us to be that voice, you know, and demand to have that voice too. Be in those rooms where, like the radio station and the news station and things like that, in order to have media talk about the issues that matter to us, not just about Kardashians or not just about whatever is going on, you know, talk about the real issues.
It's not about knowing the issues, it's about knowing the candidates. All right, we have a number of people in Florida who's connected to such groups as the GEO. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. And that is the second largest prison complex system in the country, who has one of the strongest lobbyist system, one of the strongest lobbies in the country. And so therefore we have people who say they're representing us, but they go to Tallahassee, they go to Washington, and they try to figure out a way how to put more black, brown, and more people back in jail. Right. All right, so we have to know these people. So this coalition is historical, it's powerful.
Keeping them accountable after the vote, right? But what about keeping them accountable prior to the vote? We need to know who our candidates are. We need to know their backgrounds. The same research we can do for a dress online that Kim Kardashian is wearing, I'm sure that young people can do that same research for these candidates. And I think that if we had more information about the candidates, that we as a coalition, we would know who to put in the office, the correct people to put into the office, so that we're not putting individuals who have that tendency to run back to GEO and
this is historic. And most people do not want this because can you imagine if we get together and begin to vote as blocks or as single entities, we can control this state and make the state more applicable to the equality that it's supposed to stand for. We have that type of power.
Based on what we have discussed already today, we've talked about all the things that are disparities in our communities, but we've also talked about education. From this point on, can we discuss what we're gonna do? Because we always have these meetings in our community and we talk about economic development, we talk about disparities in our community, but we never talk about a plan or a solution to how we're going to resolve these issues. We haven't resolved anything for a long time. And I just like to see this group come together and be able to leave here and go out into our own communities and not only educate, but educate with a plan. We go out in our communities and we talk about, oh, this is going on. We talk about absentee ballot fraud that goes on in our community, but we don't have an action plan to stop it.
They told me, don't listen to the Hispanic community. They're not going to get out and vote. They're not registered. They don't care. They're too busy. I know Hispanics are hard workers, and I know my parents are working class. They never went out to vote. They're going to come out and vote for me. And then, I was told, focus on the super voters, because that's easy votes, right? You mailer, raise the money. So of course you can't neglect the easy voters. You can't neglect the super voters. They're going to be a surefire bet. But I refuse to listen that my community is not going to vote. So I'm trying to engage them, and that's why I'm here. People tell me, I'm Latina. My husband's from Haiti. He's dark skinned. People say, don't put your black husband on your mailers because people are still racist. Do not do that. I have them on my website. I have them on my pamphlets. I refuse to listen. So I'm here to, and then I need your support. Everybody, all the candidates who are like me, need you to sponsor. And I think it's a different word, mentorship, than sponsorship. Mentorship is you do your own thing and people are going to watch what you're doing and they're going to learn from you. Sponsorship is you're going to step aside and you're going to stand behind that person. You're going to push them forward. Right. And so we need sponsors. So when you see someone that you are proud of, that you think should be in leadership, you need to get behind that person. You need to push them forward. You need to introduce them to your friends, your cousins, your sisters, your friends, your network, and don't forget about them, because I get people say, that's great, how can I help you? And then when I call, it's dead. I don't get answers. So I need sponsors, our community needs sponsors, and if we want to pick who's going to be serving us, who looks like us, because our judiciary does not look like me, and does not look like my family. And so if we want that, we need to sponsor people.
Black males would be arrested in the United States. 1 out of 15. 1 out of 36 Hispanic males will be arrested. 1 out of 106 white males will be arrested. Law enforcement can be a big asset to this organization. Where I am at, we have 450 deputies, but only 19 are black. Out of the history of Volusia County, we only have 9 Hispanics. We have to do more in the community to make a change. And that is what we need to do. Let's talk about our juveniles. Let's talk about what I'd like to do regarding mentorship. Volusia County has one of the greatest mentoring programs throughout Central Florida. They have a program already. I want to ask all deputies to get into the schools to mentor our kids. If we can start community-based policing, which a lot of these organizations are eliminating, we can get back into the communities, get back into the low-income areas and start teaching them and give them a reason why to study and get educated. That's what we need. We need not just people up here. We need law enforcement who has money that they can actually put back into the community so that we can bring up unity.
Now we have with us our supervisor of election, Bill Cowell, and we invited him to do the final remarks, and he will be a few minutes to entertain any questions you may have.
And each of you here, I have interacted with you in one capacity or another along the way, whether a candidate to be or a candidate currently, or charter and disability and all. So, but glad to see that you all are here, to the group that put this together, really good. But let me just kind of cover a few things that I heard. I got here earlier than I anticipated. I did go up to the Apopka where there are other candidates and there's the ribbon cutting, and they just had a city election, so I needed to be up there. But a couple things. I'm sure that I'm echoing many of the comments that were said, but I hope that, to build off of them. And I know, because I saw Doug had yesterday buying those beautiful color maps up there. And if you ask really nice, I think I have them about all local. And so, with that, I know that Doug emphasized it's not about the president. And I'm glad to see that you're here talking now in April and not doing this like October, because we've got to get it done for the November election. And it's really about local. And when I talk to people, I tell them the problem with our elections is the pyramid is the wrong way. We spend too much time up here at the top on the president. We don't spend enough time down here with city council, county commissioners, school board, state reps, and then go up to the federal level. And so that's the nice thing that I'm hearing from this group, is that you want to start local and build upon that. And with that, I think the thing that is truly missing, and we talk about this a lot, is the fact that we're not recruiting early on local candidates for local offices and then groom them to move up. We allow people to come in from someplace else and jump into a race and sell themselves. And I heard the almighty dollar issue and all that. So from that standpoint, we need to do better at recruiting local candidates, grooming them to move up in the process to represent. So they know the community and they move forward with their service in the community. So cultivating the local level. I heard that there was a discussion about youth, and the youth is a concern in terms that right now our office is out and we're doing every high school student government elections for officers next year. And there's a couple parts to it. Part one is we're allowing them to conduct their own election. We give them the machines and the ballots, and then the student government conducts the election. So they're learning how to conduct the election, but they're voting on the same equipment that you vote on when you go to the polling place. Sorry, Channel 2, but the image of walking and the curtain shutting behind you is long gone, and the idea of putting your ballot into a box and then it disappears is long gone. There's optical scan machines, and the ballot goes in and scans your ballot and even tells you if you made an error, like overvoted or undervoted, so that you can fix it. So, we got to sell the message of what it is today. And we're showing those youth about, we're letting them register to vote. We have partners that go out with us to do voter registration. And so we're registering them. But in schools, all they get to teach them is federal government. So they talk nothing about president. Only when I get invited in do they get local discussion, all that. So they've got to be covered. But the biggest problem is that generation, right, their parents, who are not taking them to the polls to vote. And particularly in some communities, it's the grandparents who are continuing on and getting the younger folks to vote. But we've got to get their, the parents are not voting either to role model it. We've got to role model. And again, politically, nobody wants to talk to the 18 to 30-year-olds because they don't know how they'll vote. And many of them are registering without party affiliation because they don't know anything about the parties. Or the parties have gone so far this way they don't want to be part of it, okay? So that's a major issue with getting the young folks to understand. And we're hearing it, you heard it on March 15th in Florida. I have no party affiliation and I can't participate in the process. Again, that's part of knowing the rules. And I think that's one of the things this group and any group that gets together is you got to have sessions to understand what the rules are, which goes to the word I heard, the word fraud. And in this community, we do have a situation going on in one of the cities. We'll see how it plays out. But on the other hand, I will tell you that in the campaign world, fraud is used as a campaign tool. Right. And it's important that we kill the false fraud messages. And that's partly because people come here from another state. Oh yeah, you can go vote on March 15th. Anybody can vote. No, Florida's a closed primary state. You can change your party at the polling place. No, we're not one of those where you can pick a place. So understanding the rules is important, but engaging the youth is a key part of it. The other part of it is we're a complete community. And I think one of the things that frustrates me when we have discussions, and I'll pick early voting as an example. Washington Park Library has already been labeled. That's the African American early voting site, which is not true. It's not true. I mean, it's in probably the heart of the city of Orlando's community, but it's not true, you know, so that's why there are other sites. Hello, on I didn't see her earlier on that. The other part is 436 in Hoffner, the Southeast Library, is dedicated to being the Hispanic library. But it's not true. We live all over this county in different areas. So when you talk about city elections, it's one thing, but when you're talking about county-wide elections, state elections by districts, or the federal elections, which are a lot of times county-wide or districts, you know, so we need to get the message out and be working completely around the county, and it's not just isolated to a certain segment in a certain area. So the message needs to be broad. The last thing I would say is, and it's one that I've been really dwelling with, and Professor, the big issue coming up in November is college students only vote for president. And we know that they're going to line up, whether they're from Pennsylvania and haven't changed their address and they get told they can't vote. So we're starting to work on what to do there. But I got the idea. And I'm going to strongly suggest to them that they adopt a early voting site and have events outside the early voting site. Now, Washington Park, those who have ever early voted there, or you can take the town of Eatonville, which, miracle, they vote on Saturdays. What a novel idea, voting on Saturdays or a state holiday, so everybody can get out to vote. But they turn it into a full-day festival. You know, music, food, transportation, all that. So I would encourage you, as you think, creating that type of an environment at the early voting site. Now again, the problem is, libraries won't allow you to do on their property, and that's the only place I can do on those cases, but there are some. So I think the idea of setting up events, and I heard the message loud and clear, let's get an action plan. Now's the time to start talking, because the election on August the 30th, based on rules, judges, that's primary to judges. It's primary to school board. Oh, it's primary to the supervisor of elections election. I have to both run and conduct it, okay, and stay above the fray on it. But I mean, again, we have so many that are decided in August that never get to November. So you can't wait till after the primary to get started. But forums such as this, but now forums where you create ways to get the community in, whether you target youth and get them, or you target the whole district, some district, and really get them and start doing them on a regular basis. And last thing I would say, before I take a few questions, is that the Supervisor of Elections Office is there to support you. In many ways, you know, we provide support in terms of mappings, materials, you've got access to lists and all that. So we are a partner in it. But the bottom line is, the Supervisor of Elections position is really the end user. I'm the one who's got to have the system there so that when the campaigning is done, the voters are motivated to vote, they have the mechanism to do that. And the sad part is, when I do get out and try to do voter education, and I try to work with groups, sometimes I get slapped because you shouldn't be over that far, you shouldn't be over this far on it. And again, along the way, you know, there's so much going on. But because there's things, you've got things on your ballots, you've got issues to start dealing with, you know.